As we start, I had two stories I wanted to share with you. There was a story of four high school boys who couldn't resist the temptation to skip morning classes. Each had been smitten with a bad case of spring fever. After lunch, they showed up at school that morning. Much to their relief, she smiled and said, still smiling, she waited for them to get settled down and got ready for her questions. And she said, "First question, which tire was flat?" Which tire was flat? There's another story of two brothers, an older brother. We don't have to give them names, but an older brother and a younger brother. They were both, again, this is not necessarily about me, but they were boiling up for supper. The little brother punching his teeth and it crack, splat, the first egg hits his head, and he's just dripping down his hair. So if you hadn't caught up, truth. When we don't tell the truth, in Matthew chapter 5, the Sermon on the Mount, and specifically we're talking about when we say we're going to do one thing and we don't end up holding up our part of the bargain. When we try, like the older brother, Matthew chapter 5 and verse 33 through 37, we've been in this series, and the series that I've potentially in the last few lessons, I have been less articulate in what I mean by this metaphor. To me, the heart of the matter is twofold, and that's why the metaphor can get a little hazy at times. The first point, at the heart of the matter, the reason why the series is labeled this is because when Jesus begins this teaching, he says, "You shall not murder," but the heart of murder is hatred, and it happens to be in your heart, and that's where the metaphor gets a little hazy. The heart of the matter with adultery is love. And so, this certain thing, and it is far deeper than what we would normally say this matter entails. But it's also the heart of the matter because it's a matter of the heart. The heart of the matter is these things that really hit us deep. And the reason it's the heart of the matter is because it's a matter of the heart. Now again, I know that just clears everything up, and fancy saying there that you might just forget it or forget what it means. But the idea is, yes, it's our heart, but the central key point is what Jesus is going to attack. And he does that in Matthew chapter 5 and verse 33 about this idea of oaths. This idea of oaths. And so what I've been doing, that's the application from last week, because this sermon flows. This sermon flows. He was talking about divorce, and last week the application was let your yes be yes. If you're going to make a commitment, especially the big ones like marriage, let your yes be yes. And even when it's hard, even when it's difficult, even when it's challenging, hold fast to your commitments, hold fast to your oaths. And yet, even in the big things, be faithful in the little things. as well. Every single thing you say, every single oath you make, every single vow that you take, every word that comes out of your mouth, let it be truth, but also let it be something that you are committed to as well. And so tonight, we're going to look at Matthew chapter 5, and we'll start in verse 33. Again, you have heard that it was said to those of old, "You shall not swear falsely, but shall perform to the Lord what you have sworn." And if we stop right there, what an amazing statement to make. What an amazing truth to live by. Don't swear falsely. And if you swear something to the Lord, perform what you've sworn. He is summarizing many, many different verses, many different things that come about in the old law. He is summarizing many verses, and we'll look at one in just a second. But the reason why, we're going to take a little bit of a detour from Matthew 5 and detour away from that into some of the old law and why it was necessary in the first place. Why it was necessary in the first place for God to say, take an oath and take it and take the oath to my name. Because the problem is this. We're going to start with the truth and we're going to shoot from here and learn more about it. The truth is this. The first one is we are liars. We are liars. Now, that's just maybe interesting for us to think about. It's interesting for us to think, well, man, I don't plan on being a liar. I don't have that in my schedule. I don't live with that as my life motto. But as we see, there is this book called The Day America Told the Truth, which is funny because they're talking about lying, and they obviously told the truth about how much they lie. But the book found out that 91% of those surveyed said they routinely lie about matters that are considered trivial. 91% said they would lie about matters they deem unimportant. It is said that within 10 minutes of meeting someone new, in the study as well, 10 minutes of meeting someone new, 60% of us will tell a lie when you meet someone new. It might be about your age, your income, what you do for a living, just the small little details that you just fuzz around a little bit because you want to seem better when you meet someone new. The survey also said that 36% would lie about important matters. 86% lie regularly to their parents. 75% lie to their friends. 73% lie to siblings. And 69% said that it is okay to lie to your spouse. And see, the reason why in the beginning, when God gave the old law, the Decalogue, these things, all of these laws, one of the things that he included was this idea of oaths, because he understood that when people speak, they don't always tell the truth. And so in an effort to help people tell the truth was this idea that, hey, the third commandment is do not take my name in vain. And yes, we apply that very honestly when we are saying, hey, when you take the holy name of God and you profane it, you make it vanity and throw it in the dirt, and you casually throw around the name of the creator of the universe, that is taking the Lord's name in vain. But to them, it was something a little bit different. Yes, it was you don't take the name of Yahweh and throw it in the dirt. And I mean, they had the way they honored the name of God was incredible. But to them, taking the Lord's name in vain was saying, I swear by the Lord, this will happen. I take an oath in the name of the Lord, and when I break that vow, break that covenant, break the thing that I said I would do in the name of the Lord, I have taken it in vain. Deuteronomy chapter 10 and verse 20 says, you shall fear the Lord your God, you shall serve him and hold fast to him, and by his name you shall swear. One among many of the verses of the Old Testament talking about swearing oaths in the name of the Lord. In the name of the Lord. And you wonder by the statistics of people that say everything's okay with lying. People that say everything's okay with lying, and you wonder why that is. You wonder why that is. Why do people think that it's okay to lie, to break the covenant, the commandments, the commitments that they've said they would do. Maybe it's because they grew up in a home with parents that didn't honor what they said. As we will read just a little bit, Jesus will say, let your yes be yes and your no be no. And sometimes, as we're parenting, and I've not been there, so I'm, maybe I don't know. Disregard what I'm saying, potentially. But what I'm trying to say is the truth is sometimes as parents, we say yes and we do not follow through. And maybe that's why people think it's okay to lie. Well, my parents did it all the time. Sometimes it might be because we've been told no by our parents. Well, it was no, and then it was, well, I already told you no. Then it was no, and then I'm going to count to 3 again. And by the time I've got to the third no, finally, there's follow through. And so let your yes be yes and your no be no. And there are so many circumstances that's going to be difficult in. Maybe it's because as coworkers, we've looked around and we've seen people say, I'm going to show up at 8 o'clock on Monday morning. And lo and behold, 8:15, they're rolling in. We may not think, well, that was a lie. You told a lie when you said that. But no, you did not fulfill the oath, the thing that you said you were going to do. And so the truth of the matter is, we are liars. We are liars. And so part of this reason that God said, swear oaths by my name, is because he wanted a seal on the agreement. He wanted a commitment that was true to honoring God. If you were going to do something and you were a good Israelite, you would say, I will do this and I will swear by the name of God because I am committed and I am passionate about making this thing happen. If you didn't swear by God, it was a sign that you were not committed, that you were not passionate, that it was maybe a so-so. Oaths were given, oaths were commanded because of the sinfulness of the world, because God understood that when we say something, we're not always going to fulfill it. So God made provision. God said, okay, my people are going to be different than the world. The world does not keep their promises. The world does not keep up with the things that they say and commit to the things that they've said they were going to do. So my people, I'm going to give them an extra incentive. I'm going to say it is one of the greatest commandments that I will give you. One of the 10, the top 10 is going to be, when you say you're going to do something in my name, you're going to do it. And so God made provision. That's the reason why we may say oaths today. And in our day, it's the same way. The goal when you are making oaths is to get people to honor your word. Well, I promise that this is going to happen. I pinky promise that this is going to happen. I cross my heart and hope to die it's going to happen. I swear to God that it was this thing. And we do the same thing these days. And it might be a truth that the more adamant we are swearing, the less credibility we have. The less credibility we have. And so, as we continue the rest of this passage, I think we're going to see the next point. The next truth is we love loopholes. Oh man, we love loopholes. Isn't that great? I mean, I can make an oath, but as long as I give myself just a little loophole at the back, a little out in case it doesn't happen, then I'll be all right. Now, if you'll come with me, I like to advocate sometimes for the good intentions of others. For the good intentions. Maybe where it started was a contrite heart that was really coming to God. And so maybe, and I'm going to say a big maybe, because I don't think, especially for the Pharisees, this is not where it was at. But maybe in the beginning, this list, the thing that Jesus is about to talk to us in the Sermon on the Mount, maybe the list came from this honest, contrite striving to say, you know what, I do not want to break the third commandment. And on the other hand, I know that I am a sinful human being, and when I say something, I may not be able to follow through with what I've said. And so, when I say, okay, I'm going to show up on Monday, and I swear I'll be there by the temple. I didn't swear by God, because if I have a flat tire on the way there, if my parents get sick and I have to go take care of them and I'm not there, no matter what the circumstances are, I might have broken my word. So I am going to hedge my bets just a little so that if by some other means I can't keep up with my promise, I'll still be okay. I won't have it broken the commandment of God. And maybe it can come from a pure intention of I really don't want to break this third commandment of taking the Lord's name in vain. So I'm going to swear by something else, something a little less severe. And therefore, even if I am committed and passionate about making it happen, but if I can't because I know I'm sinful, I'll still be covered because I haven't actually sworn to God in the name of the Lord, but I've sworn in the name of heaven or in the name of the city or the hairs on my head. And maybe, and again, I've said that a lot, but maybe that's where it started. In this pure form, I don't want to break the commandments of God, and so I'm going to try to hedge my bets just a little. But where it's ended up in the Pharisees' day is, well, the oaths to my head, the oaths to the city, the oaths to even to the earth or to heaven don't really mean anything, and so that is in the spirit of, I know I'm not going to be committed. I know I am not passionate about making this happen, and so I'm going to swear by one of these lower things so that I can get out of it very easily. And instead of honoring your word, you are giving yourself an out and a back door and the loophole in a way that is dishonest. And you may think, well, I've never said I swear by the kingdom of heaven, or I've never sworn by the town of McPherson, so I don't see how this applies to me. But here's the thing. How many times have you been asked, are you going to be there at my party? Or are you going to be there at church? Or are you going to be there at this event? And you say, maybe, I'll probably be there, knowing full well you are not going. You've hedged it. You've said, well, maybe. I don't want to be truthful. I don't want to be honest. But I also don't want the inconvenience or the difficulty of telling the truth. And so I'm going to hedge my bets a little. I'm going to give an oath, but I'm going to give it in such a way that I have enough leverage, enough pull to get out of what I said. However, I think that there are, when bringing it home to my life, here's what I was thinking. I have potentially two examples in my life. One, I've already kind of hinted at this, is the probablys, the maybes. I still fully intend to do the thing that I'm doing, and I'll probably be able to be there for the men's breakfast, or I'll probably be able to be there at this point in time. And the reason I say probably, if it's a God-honoring way, is like James 4. James 4, when it says, don't you say I'm going to such and such a city and I'm doing all these great things and I'm going to make a profit. He says, no, you should say, Lord willing, I'm going to go do these things. And so there are times, and I think it is a good practice for us to say, okay, I'm going to do my best, and Lord willing, I'm going to do these things. And it's not necessarily a loophole / you're hedging your bets, but I think what it is doing, it is being as truthful as you can and as honest as you can, realizing the situation where you say, you know what, Lord willing, I'm going to be there. You know what, I'm going to try my best to show up. I'm going to try my best to do these things. And you can still remain true to your word and allow yourself to live in a world where you can't perform and you can't do everything. But the problem becomes, like I said, it's a matter of the heart. When your heart is saying, I really don't want to do this, I am disengaged, I am not passionate, I am not committed, and I'm going to hedge on my bets and throw all these things out there, knowing I already made my mind up. It is a dishonest way of living. And so now, I don't know necessarily, this was the story that I kind of wanted to share. This last Friday, Johnny was coming to help me with the house, and what an amazing fella. Man, he helped me out. We did a lot of good work there, and what a crazy elder we have here. He just an amazing man. Loved him coming out to help. But I texted him the night before, and I said, hey, I'm going to be there in this time frame. And I had a 30-minute bet hedging window to get to the place. But it was pretty early. And anyways, I'm not going to give excuses, but our clock was broken. And I was, on my way out the door, and I looked at the clock and thought, well, that clock is broken. So I checked my phone, and I thought, I got time. I'll do a few dishes while I got some time. I'll do some dishes. So with the broken clock on the wall, I'm doing some dishes because I like to be a good husband. Just wanted to throw that out there. Try to be a good husband. But anyways, I'm washing the dishes. And, I get to the second rack, and I'm washing the dishes, and I look over at my broken clock, and I said, I shouldn't have been using this because it's broken. And I look at my phone, and it's already the time that I told Johnny I would be at the house. At this point, I have broken my oath. I said I would be there, and I'm not there. However, knowing that Johnny has a long way to come, and knowing that he might not be there when the time that I told him, and I said, hey, man, you come from a long ways, just get there whenever you want to get there. And so I stop washing dishes and gather my things and get in the car and drive over there. And on the way over, I'm thinking, should I text Johnny and say, hey, man, I'm sorry I wasn't there. I said I would be there, and I'm not there. And I thought, well, he's probably not there, so he doesn't know yet. So I pull up to the house, and lo and behold, no Johnny. And I'm like, yes. No one has to know that I didn't do what I said I was going to do. So I get out of the car and I walk around to the back side of the house to make it look like I'd been there a while doing some stuff at the back side of the house. And here comes Johnny's pickup pulling in by the skin of my teeth. It was like 5 minutes that I made it there before Johnny did. And I come walking over and it's like, man, Johnny, I didn't say any of this, but it's like, you have that idea of like, I've just been here for so long and you got to act like you've been there, not like you just showed up and you don't know what's going on. So anyways, all that to say, I did not follow through with what I said I was going to do. No one knew about it. No one, until now, no one necessarily cared about it. But it was something that I have to live with. I have to live with this idea that, yes, I say things and don't always follow through with them. So how can I, as a person, develop myself in such a way that I can honor and serve God and stick true to the things that I've said I'm going to do? That I've said I'm going to do. And so, the hedging the bets, the loopholes, this is the loophole that the Pharisees would say. Matthew chapter 5, continuing on in verse 34. But I say to you, this is Jesus, but I say to you, do not take an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or from the earth, for it is the footstool of God, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not take an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair black or white. Let what you say simply be yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil. One of the interesting, funny things that I had heard about studying this passage was, haven't you seen, preacher, today that I can make my hair white or black? I just go get some dye. And the interesting, funny thing is, even in Jesus' day and age, I Googled this, so who knows, but even in Jesus' day and age, they would use certain things to help them create hair dye. So even in Jesus' day, and it was mostly just ashes and charcoal that they would use to color their hair, but there was an ability they had to turn their hair a different color. So we can't say, well, we got you, Jesus, you can dye your hair today. No, they still could sort of do that in his day. The principle of the matter was this: you do not control even your own body. You are not the ultimate authority even on the things that happen in your own body. It's all God's. And so you try to hedge your bets and you try to say, well, I didn't take the Lord's name in vain, but I did break this oath on Jerusalem, or I did break my oath to the earth. But what Jesus is saying is you can't leave God out of the equation at all. God hears whenever you speak, and God wants you to be committed to what you say. God hears what you say and wants whatever you say to be the truth, and you to follow through and be committed to the things that you have said you were going to do. And so they would try to hedge their bets by saying, well, I'm swearing by these things, and it's not as severe. And I'm swearing by this, but the truth of the matter is they were just looking for an out. They didn't want to continue to hold up their word, hold up their oath. So finally, we have these three principles that I want to talk about. The first one is oaths are still acceptable. Oaths are still acceptable. When you read this in verse 34, but I say to you, do not take an oath at all. People have said, well, there's a blanket statement. I can never be in the courtroom because I have to take an oath. I can never be a public servant or a police officer because they have to take an oath. I can never do these things. I can never take an oath besides this. That's not what Jesus is talking about. If you read further, he is saying, do not take an oath at all by heaven, by earth, by Jerusalem, or by your head, because those things are coming from evil. In Genesis 24 and verse 2, Abraham takes an oath. with his servant so that his servant can go find a wife for Isaac among his people, not among the Canaanites. Genesis chapter 50 and verse 25, Israel, or Jacob, will make an oath with his sons to say, hey, take my bones with you when you return to our land. In Genesis chapter 22, God will make an oath. God will make a promise. Hebrews chapter 6, verse 13, telling us about that event, will say that God swore an oath, and there's no one higher than God, so he had to swear an oath by his own name. And so what Jesus is saying is not that oaths are just evil and from the devil and never make an oath at all. There are specific times and specific places when oaths are acceptable. But what he is saying is in your daily life, in the words that you speak, require no oath because you speak the truth. Because when you say what you're going to do, you follow through. You are committed and you are passionate about making that thing occur. The next point that I wanted to make with this, the oaths that are unacceptable are, I pinky promise, I swear on my mother's grave, I cross my heart and hope to die, or you cross your fingers behind your back. I told you I'd do that, but you see this? Don't have to do it anymore. Those are the oaths that Jesus is saying, hey, this should not be a part of the language of Christians. But the second thing is let honesty be constantly on your lips. Let the things that you say be truth. Let the things that you speak be truth. And yes, it's talking specifically about, well, don't lie about what happened. Don't lie about different things that are going on in your world. But specifically, don't lie about the things that are coming about, that will happen. Let honesty be constantly on your lips. When you speak the truth, own up to it. When you speak and say the things that you are going to do that will happen, be committed. Let honesty be constantly on your lips. Sometimes we don't tell the truth because the truth hurts. Sometimes we lie to try to protect ourselves. Sometimes we lie we think we're protecting others. Sometimes we lie because lies are comforting. Sometimes we lie because we'd rather live in a slightly altered reality, a fantasy world, than in reality. Sometimes we lie because if honesty is constantly our best policy, we will have to try to combat the feelings of self-preservation. Well, I want to lie and save myself, but I need to be truthful. I need to combat this feeling that I need to hide and cover up the things that are going on in my life. If we're going to be people of honesty, we're going to have to face the fact that we would rather lie to people and have them like us than tell them the truth and be turned away. We have to confront the idea that it's better for people to be happy if we lie to them than sad if we tell them the hard, honest truth. Dennis Diderot, I don't know how to say his last name, said, "We swallow willingly any lie that flatters us, but sip only little by little a truth we find bitter." Lies just flow off the tongue like honey. And speaking the truth is hard. Speaking the truth is hard. But if we're going to be people of the book, people of God, we need to let honesty be constantly on our lips. And finally, let integrity be your guarantee. Let integrity be your guarantee. Don't have to add, well, I swear, I promise it'll be done. Do away with the things that are honestly suspicious. When people start saying, well, I promise, I'm just so committed and I'm going to do these things. I swear on my mother's grave. And you start throwing all of these oaths out. It diminishes the trust you have in this person. So let integrity be your guarantee. Let integrity be the reputation you have of someone who speaks the truth. Let that be the guarantee that you're going to do what you say you're going to do, that you've told the truth, that you've said the things that are truthful. Let integrity, the way that you live, your reputation as a person that speaks the truth, that says the truth, and will uphold the truth, be the thing that guarantees your words. Not all of these flavor texts, not all of these things you spit out, the platitudes to try to get someone to believe you. But let your reputation as a person of integrity be your guarantee, so that when you speak, people know it's the truth and understand it is the truth. So finally, uphold your oaths. Uphold your oaths and speak the truth. And I realize tonight that this is a slightly different application than maybe you were expecting. But turn with me to Ephesians chapter 4. Ephesians chapter 4, and starting in verse 29. The application is this. Ephesians 4 and verse 29, let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths. And I think I would classify that as constant repetitious oaths of, well, I promise and I swear and I swear in my mother's grave, I swear to God. Let those things, let the corrupting talk not come from your mouths, but when you speak the truth, the end of verse 29, but only what is good for building up as it fits the occasion to give grace to those who hear. So not only should we speak truth, but let's speak the right kind of truth. Yes, it's true that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Yes, it's true that none is righteous, no, not one. But if we constantly harp on those things, and that's the only message we have, that is true, but it is also condemning. It is true, but there's no hope in it. It's true, but there's no life in it. We need the whole truth aspect needs to come in. But let's tell the right kind of truth. And what I mean by that is not that there's your truth and my truth, and truth is subjective. But let's encourage people. Let's tell the truth that builds people up. Let's tell the truth that encourages and lifts and builds and promotes people, and not those that tear others down. And yes, I know we started off talking about oaths and being committed to the things that you said. And we've ended with, well, encourage people. But I think in every word we say, we need to be people of integrity. People of integrity. So if you make a promise, if you make an oath, if you swear to do something, which in this instance for Christians is any time you open your mouth, let your yes be yes. Let it be the truth of what you're saying. And finally, let it be something that is uplifting and encouraging and loving to people. And so our application is tell the right kind of truth by being kind, by being uplifting and encouraging. And our call to action is, before you leave today, encourage someone. Encourage someone. If there's a way that the Spirit has pricked your heart tonight, if there's a lie that you've been living, if there's something that you've been struggling to keep up with and struggling to keep up with all of these oaths that you've made, the responsibilities that you've had, if you've struggled with taming your tongue, we'd like to offer assistance. We'd like to offer help and prayers. If there are any other need that you would have, would you come forward as we stand and as we sing?